Sits around. We call the meeting to order. If we would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening, we're just going to have a moment of silence, but there is some direction to it, if you will, or I'd like to offer some direction. It has been about a year since we started sheltering, and certainly it was our first April meeting, I think, of 2020 was the first one that we were under different conditions. And so I thought it would be worthy of our attention to think through what we can be thankful for this evening and looking back over the past year. And certainly we're thankful for the health of our community. We obviously we were impacted by the virus, but we, I think, moved through it pretty well, and I think most folks, really made an attempt to practice good, healthy procedures, and I think that served everyone well. And of course, we're thankful for not only the town employees, our first responders and our policemen, but also police officers, but also thankful for others in the community that served bravely during the past year. I think the folks at Ingalls in particular, they're there, and the crowds are going to come because that's just where we buy most of our groceries here in Black Mountain. That's what it is. So we're appreciative of all those at the pharmacies too, that those doors were always open. And thankful that our town and county in particular didn't suffer the economic loss that it could have. And so we were very fortunate and blessed in that way. But then also, and of course, we're all thankful that there's a vaccine and that the shots have been made available, and even more so at this point in time to anybody who wants one, and certainly encourage our citizens to do just that. But then we also remember those who did have a loss of life due to the coronavirus, and those who did suffer economic loss. And so let's just take a moment of silence and give thanks, and also think of those who are more needy than we might be this evening in our community. We give thanks. Thank you. Sit down. Have a seat and we'll get started. Josh, would you like to take just a moment for the announcement period and just mention the situation over at the lake for all of our citizens?
Sure. So Lake Tomahawk, when we have rain events, since that is an earthen dam, we are required by state law to lower those lake levels to an extent to take into account the water that's going to be coming in, so it doesn't overtop the dam. We normally do this on rain events, and unfortunately for us, this past rain event, we did so, and the valve that the water releases from is stuck in an open position currently. There is debris in that valve right now. Tomorrow, our staff will be out fixing that valve, removing the debris, and the lake should be filled back up, barring no unusual setbacks, hopefully in the next couple of days.
Great,
Just to
thank
give
you.
you an update.
Great, thank you, Josh. I know I've received some calls, and so hopefully that information will be helpful for everybody to know where that is. And hopefully it will be addressed tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, great, thank you. And we appreciate the public service folks' attention to it. So is Dan here this evening? He's not here, okay. Well, we have a proclamation for Dan Cordell, our building inspector, who is retiring. And so we'll honor him with this proclamation this evening. Whereas the town of Black Mountain is always appreciative of those who serve for the betterment of the town, and whereas Dan Cordell has dedicated 20 years of service to the town of Black Mountain as building inspector and is now retiring, and whereas Dan Cordell rendered during his employment valuable services to the town of Black Mountain and the citizens thereof, and whereas it is fitting that the town of Black Mountain shows its appreciation when one has rendered such valuable services. Now therefore be it hereby proclaimed by the town council of the town of Black Mountain that Dan Cordell is hereby acknowledged as having been a good, loyal, and faithful public servant of the town of Black Mountain. That this proclamation expresses the deep appreciation on behalf of the citizens of the town of Black Mountain for the valuable service which he has provided the town. This proclamation is hereby presented to Dan Cordell, and a copy of the same shall be placed within the records of the town of Black Mountain. Proclaim this 12th day of April 2021. So I'll sign these and we'll get these to Dan. And Dan, we appreciate your service to the town. It's a tough job that you have, and we appreciate your work. All right. And the Monarch Pledge, just in my agenda packet.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me locate it. Right behind. Yep. Savannah normally has everything by, right, Savannah? And so Savannah is kindly, we're working through this, but this is part of what we're doing to support the monarch butterfly. So this proclamation, this is the Mayor's Monarch Pledge Day. Whereas the monarch butterfly is an iconic North American species whose multi-generational migration and metamorphosis from caterpillar to butterfly has captured the imagination of millions of Americans, and whereas the North American monarch has declined dramatically in population over the past 2 decades, and whereas to help save the monarch butterfly, the town of Black Mountain will play a leadership role by committing to restore and preserve habitat that supports the insect's 2,500-mile migration across the continent to their nesting ground. And whereas citizens can make a difference for the monarch by planting native milkweed and nectar plants to provide habitat for the monarchs and pollinators in locations where people live, work, learn, play, and worship. And whereas mayors, elected officials, and government executives are encouraged to sign the National Wildlife Federation's Mayor's Monarch Pledge to help foster monarch butterfly conservation. Now, therefore, I, Larry B. Harris, Mayor of the town of Black Mountain, on and behalf of the Black Mountain Town Council, do proclaim April 12th, 2021 to be Mayor's Monarch Pledge Day. Signed this day, April 12, 21. All right. Do we have any citizen comments this evening?
We do. I'll start here. Our current skate park is in need of updating so that it is more attractive to the community's youth skateboarders and bikers, as well as giving them a safe location to ride. I believe construction of a new skate park / pump track in the Veterans Park would be a new way to envision a playground for all wheels. Today, there are more improved designs that allow reasonable ways to construct skate parks / pump tracks. My vision would be that kids could safely skate or bike our greenways to access this skate park or pump track, therefore making our community safe for our kids to stay active and healthy. I have teamed up with the skateboard project to ensure this vision would be created efficiently and up to community standards, as well as guidance on ways to raise money for the town and apply for grants to help fund this project. To conclude, I would like to ask the council members of Black Mountain to consider I organize a steering committee with members from the town as well as interested parents that would meet on a regular basis to pursue this project and be able to look into it further. Thank you for your time and consideration of this project. Andrea Menzel. This is Melissa Presley from the Black Mountain Library. Thank you, council members, for renaming our governing body from archaic terms to those more inclusive and representative of our community. The fact that you approved the name change to Town Council on International Women's Day did not escape the notice of your constituents. Kudos to you and thank you. Hello, Town Council. I would like to propose a lake monster parade around Lake Tomahawk, drawing on the myth of the giant snapping turtle that lives in the lake. Participants could design and create their own lake monster, fish, pirate, or mere person, and we can progress in a parade around the lake. A kayak could be used to present a large-scale puppet. This event could be socially distanced and masked. I think the community could do with something fun and creative to look forward to and participate in. Food trucks and vendors could be invited as well. Thank you for your time and everything you do to keep Black Mountain running so smoothly. Jeannie Reagan. Hello, I am Joseph Blaylock, a resident of Black Mountain on Hiawassee Avenue. I, my wife, and several of our neighbors on the east side of Tomahawk Avenue have concerns about stormwater flows as well as flows of muddy, polluted waters into the town golf course, Lake Tomahawk, and the waterways of the Swannanoa River and downstream. In a previous meeting, March 8, 2021, Teresa Fuller voiced similar concerns. My concerns are more pointed, particularly as the council is voting on today's agenda items 9B, Resolution R-21-02, and 9C, Resolution R-21-05. Flooding and runoff of stormwater and muddy, turbid waters from developments from the east bank of the Lake Tomahawk, from sites on Allen Mountain and even immediately adjacent to rights-of-way noted in agenda items 9B and 9C is clearly damaging town property. Parts of the golf course, such as the fifth hole, appear to be permanent wetlands and damaging to the roads and almost certainly violations of the Clean Water Act. State, county, and municipal responsibility are ultimately governed by the Clean Water Act, and continued unmitigated release of turbid waters is not only against the interests of the town and citizens of North Carolina, but also the United States, since the Swannanoa River flows ultimately into the Tennessee River Basin. I have photographic evidence of multiple releases of muddy water from nearby developments that are not being addressed by the town. I have unsuccessfully raised only some of these issues with the town previously. There are multiple stormwater and pollution issues related to the watercourse crossing both tracks in the right-of-way under discussion in items 9B and 9C. Chronically, muddy water flows across or under both of these tracks, damaging roads, the golf course, parks, Lake Tomahawk, and downstream waters. The discharge from Tomahawk now appears to be eroding the dam at the south end of the lake as recently as yesterday. I ask the council to please act expeditiously and wisely to address ongoing damage to the town's and citizens' roads, culverts, property, and also to uphold the town's obligations under local, state, and federal environmental law. Respectfully. That's it.
Thank you. All right, I believe we have Gail with us with the Black Mountain Beautification Committee to give an annual report this evening. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you for inviting me. I am Gail Bromer. I'm co-chair of the Beautification Committee. I've been in that position for going on 2 years and expect to get at least one more year out of it. Even though I am a county resident, I certainly consider myself a Black Mountain. Black Mountain's my hometown, and I enjoy being able to do things for the town. I want to say a special thank you to the Public Works Department. I have rarely worked with an organization that has been so cooperative. They do so much for us on a regular basis, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but every time we do weeding or there's a litter sweep, they pick up the trash bags, they water the containers that are throughout town on a weekly basis. We had a couple major projects this year. One, we had a problem with erosion in Town Square, and they helped and created a dry riverbed to address that erosion issue. And when we created the hill, which I'll talk about, they were graciously offered their track hoe to help us pull out some shrubs. So it's been a great working relationship, and it just makes what we do a little bit easier. So I appreciate that. As some of you know, beautification was established in the year 2000, which is 21 years ago. A local native by the name of Willie Headley became the first chairperson, and her love of Black Mountain was exactly what was needed to inspire the creation of a committee to do what we continue to do today. The committee's mission is to enhance the charm and beauty of the town. There is no doubt that this increases the town's appeal to visitors and residents alike. We encourage all of our members to take an active role, and we try and get them early. We have 77 volunteers now that maintain the public gardens. Our town has been nationally recognized for its beauty, due in large part to the gardens and plantings that are installed and maintained. During the pandemic, our lifestyles changed, but the committee forged ahead. We followed CDC guidelines and tried to become good role models for the community. We added masks, social distancing, washed our hands, and we used Zoom for all of our public meetings. We masked up when we were in public, and we do appreciate each other. And living in Black Mountain more than ever, we are truly blessed. Our committee is always motivated, and despite the pandemic, we have accomplished our 3 major commitments that we have ongoing each and every year. First, we have 42 plant containers, which are planted spring and fall with a dwarf foundation shrub, spring bulbs, perennials, and fall interest plantings. Secondly, we have over 20 garden sites scattered throughout the town. And lastly, we have Town Square itself, which is actually comprised of many different garden areas and maintained by its own small team of volunteers. In addition, we renovated 7 different garden sites this year. They were the Chamber of Commerce, which is along State Street, the Rain Garden, which is an area that collects rainwater behind the dripillator, and the Cherry Street Bathroom Building. So we have actually 3 gardens we maintain at the Cherry Street Bathroom, you think of it, but there's one in front, there's one along the side of the driveway, and this one which was behind. We also renovated 2 gardens within Town Square, and a new shade garden was installed at Town Square in the area behind the bathrooms and across from the police station. In other efforts, we find that growing our membership is really critical to our ongoing success, as you can imagine. As any other community endeavor, our members move into town, move out of town, they age, they get fatigued. So getting new people is important. We have increased our presence on Facebook and on our website. We can now be found on Instagram, all to increase our exposure on social media and attract awareness. We have added 9 new members this year. We do try and engage them early and give them opportunities to feel part of our efforts in the community early on. We've sponsored a fall and a spring litter sweep. The spring litter sweep was just Saturday. Thanks to residents and committee members, we estimate that between the 2, we filled 57 big orange litter bags, which was a lot, and we had some great community support, including a group of Boy Scouts who worked behind Bilo this year. When the season turned this past fall, we created 10 scarecrows, cut down 400 corn stalks, collected pumpkins and hay bales, and distributed them throughout the town. Halloween decorations, or what we'll call Halloween or fall decorations, are placed at every welcome sign, key areas downtown, and in Town Square, the center point of activity where we set up our large spider. This year, one of our members made masks for all the scarecrows as a reminder for everyone to mask up. We worked harder than ever this year to create a successful greenery fundraising event in November, as it was our sole fundraising opportunity. Hold on one second. Let me see where we are there. Sorry, getting behind. It was our sole fundraising opportunity as we had to cancel the garden show. Every year, we sell roping, wreaths, and bows to the community and local businesses. Proceeds from this sale help to pay for the greenery and bows we actually use to decorate the town in early December. That adds to the spirit of the holidays in the community. We joined with local businesses this year again for the Deck the Trees event, and we're proud to say that our tree was one of the most successful in providing additional money for the fuel fund for the Swananoa Valley Christian Ministry for the 3rd year in a row. With the ongoing pandemic, some things were bound to be canceled. For the 2nd year in a row, we had to cancel our annual Black Mountain Garden Sale. This event is our major fundraiser every year. It raised $4,500 in 2019, and those funds will be sorely missed again. Our annual seed grant money award was canceled too. For those of you who are not aware, we give monetary awards to people and businesses in town who want to do something that enhances the town. In past years, we've contributed to many projects, including a community garden, a pollinator garden, and a garden at the depot, to name a few. The community has already let us know how disappointed they are that we didn't have it this year. Many organizations do use these funds to help make their gardening and beautification ideas come true, and we look forward to doing it again in 2022. And sadly, we had to cancel our 2020 celebration last spring, marking our 20th anniversary. We had worked hard and we're proud of what we accomplished, and we're sorry we couldn't share our story. Looking forward, what will the committee accomplish this year, and what funding will we need? What? There we go. Our commitment to the town continues with our 3 major projects. Weekly maintenance of the mini gardens in the soon-to-be 50 plant containers. As the seasons change, new material is planted to thrive with the changing weather. The town's 20 garden sites come in all shapes and sizes, some in full sun and others in shade. One of the smallest that you may know of is in the corner in the front of the dry cleaners on State Street. Some of these garden sites you don't even think of as garden sites, but we actually have, somebody is there working hard to maintain them. The town had a vision when it created Town Square, and we proudly maintain the gardens through Town Square, or in Town Square. It is certainly a focal point for downtown. In order to keep these 3 major projects sustainable, we've asked for a minimum funding of $6,000 this year, which is a slight increase due to the 8 additional new containers being built for Black Mountain. However, we'd really be grateful for funding of $8,000. That better reflects our actual historical expenditures for our ongoing commitments. We know we have members dipping into their own funds to support garden sites, and we've had to cut back in some areas and don't want to continue. We understand the reasons for some of the town's past decrease in funding, but we need the full funding to allow us to maintain and create interesting seasonal gardens that we and our visitors all appreciate. Without the full funding, we can't regularly revitalize the gardens and their plantings. Our main fundraiser, the annual Black Mountain Garden Sale, has been canceled for the 2nd year in a row. With the inability to have the second spring sale, we've suffered a huge loss. There are some areas and projects that we support specifically with proceeds from the garden sale. Seasonal decorating being one, the seed money award being one, litter sweep, Halloween decorating, and holiday December decorating. Since we canceled the May Garden Show, we are planning to have a fall sale on September 10th and 11th. This will be a scaled down version of our May Garden Sale, which means a smaller fundraiser. We are planning to have half as many vendors so we can space everyone apart for social distancing. The success of this fall sale is difficult to project, as this will be our first effort. Fall garden planting is typically less popular than spring and summer. That will mean less revenue, and we'll have to tighten our belts to fund these projects. Last year, we cut 32% out of our budget and had to cut corners where we could. We need to step up and refund the projects we cut back in order for the gardens to stay at the level we've come to expect. That's why total funding of $8,000 would be so important to the committee's financial health. This year, our committee had 2 special projects. The projects were inspired by a desire to link the new hotel and the shops and restaurants along Black Mountain Avenue visually to the other downtown areas, and we thank you for funding these projects. The container project was the first one. There are 7 new containers that will be created for the sidewalks of the 100 block of Black Mountain Avenue. These containers will be a continuation of 2017 Consistent Look project, which created a design and artwork for consistency throughout the downtown, and they serve to create a visual expansion of downtown Black Mountain. This map shows you where they will go. We had one of our members who worked very hard to create this plan, working with all the different federal guidelines that needed to happen in terms of how large the sidewalks were and what the distances were, and we think this will be a good plan. They will be built locally and have the same design as the ones currently in the historic district. We plan on having the project completed by late this summer. And once the Cherry Street bump out is complete, and I saw it's getting close, we'll incorporate that area into this Consistent Look project. The Hill Garden is located just above the Sutton Street parking lot and is very near completion. The steep hill had unfortunately become overgrown, detracting from the pedestrian walkway which links the lower levels to the higher parking area. This slide shows the new design for this area. We've made one minor change, changing the junipers along the bottom to something called Aronia, which is native and has both spring and fall interest. The renovations will create a much more attractive and inviting area and will be much more manageable for regular maintenance by the beautification committee. We started this project in November and had 2 initial designs for a low-maintenance, slope-challenged garden by January. Our Hill subcommittee had a design finalized in February. We had to identify what could be saved in the garden and cut back everything else. Unfortunately, we needed to apply herbicide due to the overgrown vinca, wild raspberries, and other vines. Public Works helped us pull the shrubs that needed to be removed, and we had 8 new boulders installed. Volunteers contributed hundreds of hours to prepare the slope for replanting, planted more than 60 shrubs, and spread 24 yards of mulch last Thursday. The perennials still need to be planted, and then that last area will be mulch. We're happy that this garden will be designated as a memorial to the victims of COVID-19. I expect it will be dedicated in mid to late June. There will also be educational aspect to the garden. As all the plantings are native species, we'll be creating signs and we'll work with the Historic Preservation Committee to get their approval. Also on the Hill Garden site, and you can't see it here, there's a small building that we call the well house. And next to the well house, there's a water tank that just is looking a little ratty. Could use a little help. And one of our members, Joyce Black-Wirtz, who created the mural at the Cherry Street bathrooms, has offered to create a mural of native perennial flowers to complement the garden. So I expect that will be done later this spring or into summer. We will certainly get proper approvals to go forward with that. In conclusion, we appreciate the relationship we have. I think it's a pretty special one. And we want to thank you for 21 years. We've enjoyed working together and look forward to many years to come. Thank you for supporting our 2 special projects. We're excited about them and hope everybody else will be. And no surprise, we're already thinking about projects for the coming year. So we would truly appreciate your full financial backing this year, and we believe we share a common vision, and with your support, we get it done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate that thorough report, and in particular, appreciate your work on Black Mountain Avenue and on the Hill, because it really will tie that area in together. And tonight, we're going to be discussing a little bit along the Greenway, but we may be able to get started on the Greenway leg that goes from Black Mountain Avenue over to the Montreat College ball field and so forth, and connect. And so I think Black Mountain Avenue will it's going to have more and more traffic and focus. And so we really do appreciate you all making it feel part of town.
Thank you. And
wonderful.
I know that Public Works has a plan to redo the walkway alongside that garden this year. I think I talked to Jamie, and it's sort of in his vision plan, which will make it nice. Right now, it's unsteady for people to walk on, so that will be sort of the final cap in making that, what we all want it to be. It's a wonderful spot, but it was a spot that, because it was such a challenge, had been neglected because people just simply couldn't get in there to work.
Mhm.
We spent a lot of time trying to decide what shrubs could be there that people wouldn't need to be clamoring on that hill
Mhm.
to take care of,
Right.
that wouldn't need regular maintenance. So that we wouldn't run into this problem again. We've got some ongoing concerns still with the hill. Once you get vinca and vines really embedded, even though we've applied herbicide a number of times, it's going to take literally some hand pulling over the course of the next year to make sure that we've got a handle on that.
Mhm.
But, we've got volunteers willing to do it, and it's a good committee,
Right.
and I'm proud to be helping to lead them. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much, Gail. Does anybody have a question or anything? We all appreciate you and the committee and
Thank
your
you.
work, and I'm sure we'll work as hard as we can to meet our end of the responsibility
I
and
appreciate
get
it.
some funding over, because $1 to you all goes a long way. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Anybody?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Thanks for being here. Josh. Glad to have Josh here this evening. That's right.
Just use this. All right. Good evening, everyone. You have a handout in your packet. It's a little more detailed than what you'll see on the screen. So if you have any questions, just feel free to stop me at any point. This is the 2020 annual report for Recreation and Parks. 2020. Wow. I could go on for a while about all the things that we had to postpone and cancel, but I'd rather just focus on the things that we were able to accomplish and kind of talk about the positive things that we were able to do. In my opinion, being that, I am the director and the department head there, I feel like our department probably got hit worse than most, being that, most of what we do depends on people gathering and coming together. So we obviously in the beginning we had a fear of, what are we going to do? Are we going to get shut down? Are we going to go home? How is this going to work? But what we tried to do was focus on what we could control at the time. And so we learned a lot of things from COVID. I think it taught us all a lot of lessons about the things that we had at our disposal that maybe we weren't utilizing before, and helped us get creative. So some of the things that we learned during this time is that parks became essential. And this was all over the country. This is just an infographic from the National Recreation and Park Association, just kind of highlighting some of the things that people experienced during this time. And if you look around, or if you were, around during this time, you realize that our outdoor spaces, our greenways, our parks, they became vital for people to get out and socialize and work on their physical health, their mental health during this time. So we saw an increased attendance. We don't really have a way to track that necessarily as far as numbers of people going to parks, but we saw a lot more people in the parks, and when we also saw a lot of negative things too, like vandalism and those sort of things. But I felt like during this time, the parks that we have here definitely became an essential part of people's everyday routine and rhythm during a time when things they couldn't do normally were taken away from them. So we really had to get creative. We really had to pivot on what we were normally doing to figure out, what can we do. And so like I said, our parks and stuff became a safe haven for people. And two of the things that really evolved during this time in a big way for us were outdoor programs in the community garden. So prior to 2020 and COVID, we did not have any outdoor programs. And this is all the brainchild of the staff that I have now. Really, Clint Bowman is a great team member, and he really did a great job. He said, hey, I want to be here. I want to keep us going, and what do I need to do? And I said, well, we got to get creative. So he loves the outdoors, and he came up with a lot of outdoor programs, which I'm sure you probably saw us doing on Facebook and things like that. But we realized that outdoor programs were going to be something that we could really build on during this time because they were safe. We learned with COVID, obviously, that being outside was a good thing. COVID couldn't catch you there. So we created some outdoor programs, keeping small groups of people together, allowing them to socialize and really utilize the resources that we had at our disposal. One thing I'll talk about later It's always kind of been my goal and my vision for this department is to have community partnerships. It's hard to do things on your own. And with everything that we have in this community that maybe we weren't utilizing before or weren't utilizing in the best way, we reached out to these groups and we made a lot of community partnerships through our outdoor programs, which I'll talk about later. And also the use of our natural resources. We have a lot of trails, green spaces that in our community that we were able to use to do a lot of our outdoor programs. And then also the community garden became huge for people. Every year it has grown with more members having plots and programs. And this became a place for people to get out of their house. It was a safe haven. They could, I know this is a funny analogy, but they could plant something, watch it grow, and kind of see the fruits of their labor. And I think it helped a lot of people with, mental health and being able to cultivate something in a time where maybe they lost a job or weren't, getting to see family members. Those sort of things allowed them to socialize. So those were two things that really became huge for us during this time. We also had our active aging meal site, which normally takes place at the Lakeview Center. That also continued during this time and became huge for us. We served, I would say on average, daily 30 to 50 meals, about between 400 and 600 a month. So that continued. We pivoted with that. That turned from those folks eating inside together to a drive-through at the Lakeview Center during the warm months. And then when it got cold, we shifted that over to Black Mountain Avenue. So here's a list of, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time talking about things that were canceled or postponed, but you can see some of the things that we did have to put on hold due to the pandemic that normally are huge for us. So some of the things early on, when COVID hit, we didn't know what we were going to do or how we were going to do it or how we'd be impacted. So some of our early hikes and things we had to postpone. Some disc golf clinics we had, obviously 4th of July, everybody missed out on that. Park Rhythms, which is huge for us, we had to postpone last year, which we will be having this year. And then just some of the other things that we normally would do in a given year. Some more of those there. With basketball was huge for us because we used the school facilities, and obviously the schools weren't allowing people to use their facilities there. The pool obviously shut down, so we didn't have a swim team. And again, just other things. One of the big things for us from a financial standpoint, obviously, is our revenue. And with COVID and kind of still in this holding pattern with rentals being the Lakeview Center, Great Eagle Arena, those sort of things, we're just not able to open up due to indoor gathering limits and really not having a staff member, paying a staff member to sit in there and police people and count the number of people that are in there based on fire capacities and what the governor said. So those were the things that were kind of impacted by COVID-19. So just spend a little bit of time talking about what we were able to accomplish during this time. Before COVID really hit, we were able to pull off our Valentine's 5K. Actually, this is from 2020. Our Valentine's 5K, we had 305 runners. That was an in-person event in February. And one of the things that we did, again, talking about partnerships, because I feel like it's really important for this community, is that the money that we bring in, people are able to donate when they sign up for this race. And so we were able to donate $450 last year, which may not seem like much, but this was kind of a partnership that really started before I came along. I started in September of 2018, and this was already kind of established roughly. And so we really wanted to continue that. And so each year with the Valentine's 5K, we donate money to the children's home. We were able to have a somewhat Halloween event. Not our normal thing, but we pivoted. We did a Halloween drive-through. So we had some organizations in the community donate candy and things, and we passed out treat bags. And for Circle of Lights this year, we set up a booth downtown and at Lake Tomahawk and allowed people to create luminaries if they wished. And then we set those around the lake and just encourage people to go on their own and check those out. Some of the programs that we started, again, with our outdoor programs were Arms Length Adventures, which took place in the summer, in the late summer months. Again, just kind of trying to utilize the resources that we had around here with waterfall hikes. We partnered with Epic Cycles, which has been huge for us to do some bike tours on the greenways around town and other places, river cleanups. We did a lot of park cleanups. We partnered with Warren Wilson, some of the other schools around here, and then we did some fall peak hiking series. And then we were able to this year, or actually I keep thinking 2021. In 2020, we did have indoor soccer, which finished right before COVID hit. We had almost 300 kids, which is probably our biggest sport that we have. Youth basketball finished as well. And then in the fall, just with COVID and everything, we were trying to figure out what can we do for youth sports, as we don't know what the future is going to look like. And we realized, hey, we have a disc golf course here. We've never put together any kind of youth disc golf league, and so our guys got together and created that. And the first season we had 13 participants, and we're running that currently now in the spring. And I would say we're probably around the 30 participant mark there. Community garden, again, it was huge during COVID. We have 80 plots down there. 19 of those are just grown solely for donation. 2020, we saw a little over 100 gardeners, and you can kind of see the numbers there from the growth over the last couple of years and the donations of food. Again, a lot of volunteer hours last year. They didn't get to host some of their normal programs like their fundraiser they do for their internship, but they were still able to have 4 interns last year. And just so you know, the way that internship program works is that runs through Black Mountain Parks and Greenways Foundation. They do a fundraiser, and that money goes into the foundation, and that money is used to pay those interns. Like I spoke about earlier, the meal site, really glad we were able to continue that. A lot of meals, a lot of those people not only look forward to the socialization every day, but some of those people, that's their meal for the day. And so that we really wanted to make sure that continued and it still continues. And so we really had a successful time with that. Again, just talking about the rentals, probably the most impacted thing that we had. We were able to bring in a little bit of revenue last year, and you can see there's probably some more numbers in your packet. But that just gives you an idea of what we were able to do. And obviously right now, the only things that remained open during COVID were the outdoor pavilions, which have been, I would say, almost most afternoons and weekends are currently scheduled out for those. Whoops. All right, so some of the improvements from last year that took place, when I took over this position in September of 18, the town had currently received a PARTF grant, which is the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, to do some projects at Veterans Park. These things were completed within the past year. We put in a new playground, a picnic shelter. We pulled 2 of the disc golf course holes off of the river and kind of rerouted that to make it safer and to help with some future projects for stream bank revitalization. Added some more parking. I had several Eagle Scout projects that took place last year. Those 2 involved the Lake Tomahawk playground, and I've had some Eagle Scouts also build some picnic tables for the pool. If you haven't been to Veterans Park, I encourage you to go out there and just check out the new stuff that's coming. We still have a few pieces left of that grant that we're currently working on. We did replace the tool shed at the community garden. In 2020, we applied for a grant through Buncombe County Recreation and were awarded, I want to say it was about $2,500 to replace the tool shed there. We had some bird boxes put up. We have several, I think we had 2 little free libraries. And a lot of these were just things that people reached out and said, hey, we'd like to put a little free library at Lake Tomahawk. Is that cool? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. We also painted the inside of the Lakeview Center. Again, just kind of talking about partnerships. You know, I think it's very important, especially during this time. We learned a lot about trying to pivot and use what we could at our disposal, and realized we have a lot of conference centers and camps in this area. and they were hurting like we were, trying to find things to do, trying to find sources of revenue. So we reached out to those guys. Ridgecrest was huge for us. One of the big draws of the hiking programs that we tried to market. A lot of these conference centers, you may or may not be aware, their trail systems are closed to the public. So one of the marketing tools there was to offer people access to trails and hikes that they wouldn't have otherwise without coming through us. And so we did that with Ridgecrest, and we were also able to use their disc golf course for our youth disc golf league to allow them to play at other places. YMCA Blue Ridge Assembly has been a great group to work with. Again, with trails, they have indoor and outdoor climbing walls. So that was a huge draw for us, offering people the opportunity to try out rock climbing or get involved with that. And then they have a disc golf course that we are utilizing as well for our youth disc golf league. Warren Wilson helped us out with some of the river cleanups. Epic Cycles, like I talked about, they were great in helping us lead bike tours, offering bike rentals to people, and just in general, like always ready to sponsor a program, always ready to help out. We also partnered with Christ Mount to do some hikes there on their trail system. Talked about the Black Mountain Children's Home earlier. And then Asheville Greenworks we partnered with to do some of the river cleanups. Just a few things that are happening upcoming this year. We did indoor soccer. We have the disc golf league going on. What we found with the outdoor programs is that those were huge, and we're going to continue those and build on that. We are going to be doing summer camp this year, hoping to have a pool season. We currently have a plan in place to do Park Rhythms, 4th of July, and then we're starting 2 new things with outdoor soccer, which we haven't done before, and then a kids fishing tournament coming up this May. And if you guys have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. And a good job in a difficult year. Thank you. Yes, a good
Absolutely.
report. Anybody have any questions for Josh?
I just wanted to reiterate what Larry just said, that I think you did an extraordinary job in a really challenging time.
Thank you.
And kudos for the creativity and the new partnerships. And, you know, some of that good stuff can continue even after the pandemic.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I think you did a really good job.
Right. Anybody else? Thank you, Josh. We appreciate you being here this evening. It's a good report.
You'll have to come back in there. Somebody else will do before you. Maybe.
All right, Josh, the consent agenda.
All right, we go through the consent agenda here. Item 5A is adoption of minutes. This would be the March 4th, 2021 agenda workshop, the March 8th, 2021 regular session meeting, and the March 10th, 2021 special call meeting. Item 5B is a budget amendment for debt payment at 304 Black Mountain Avenue. If you recall, last month the board agreed to refinance that debt, to bring that debt down. We're just moving some money around for accounting purposes to make that payment. C is a call for public hearing for voluntary annexation for 201 and 207 Old Toll Road. Item 5D is a call for public hearing for rezoning of that same property at 201 and 207 Old Toll Road. And item 5E is a call for public hearing for text amendments to open space requirements for major subdivisions. And that will be your consent agenda.
Thank you, Josh. Any questions for Josh on the consent agenda? And if not, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Great, thank you, Archie. Mr. Stone, would you start the roll call?
Ryan Stone, aye. Archie Patillo, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Thank you. Do we have any citizen comments at this point, Josh?
The rest are for public hearings. Mr.
Great,
Mayor.
thank you. So we're on to unfinished business, the Riverwalk Greenway update. Josh?
All right. I'm gonna try to take you through this and not confuse anyone. I think everyone knows kind of where we are at this point. We hit some snags with our preferred alignment. I guess we found out about that, I don't know, a few months ago. I think the board and the general public's been aware of that situation. I think a couple of meetings ago, after our meeting, we had Fred Grogan here, and he did present an option that would bring folks, I guess 2 options, that would bring folks down through town, so to speak, on sidewalks or maybe some other multi-use pass that could be constructed. After that meeting, I think there was some engagement from the Greenway Commission and maybe some other citizens about the potential for using the Hempfield property as an alignment. So what you have on the screen here is actually going to be two alignments using, it's not using the Hempfield property, but it would be using the bridge that comes across the river there. Now the one at the top of the screen, as you can see, some of that alignment does skirt into the railroad right of way, and then the rest of it skirts along Black Mountain Ventures property. Same thing with the bottom alignment, all that's going to be on Black Mountain Ventures property. We have been in multiple discussions with DOT. We have not talked to the railroad ourselves. We have had the NCDOT Rail Division reaching out to the railroad, Norfolk Southern Railroad. I will say our attempts at that have been relatively unsuccessful in getting any kind of comments from them. We did receive comment early on from them that the railroad crossing there on Hempfield is a private crossing. They refused to give us the name of who that private crossing is for, but said we could ask questions about that private crossing. NCDOT Rail Division has been asking questions about that, and we've not got any answers back from the railroad at this time. I would guess that's been going on probably for about 3 to 4 weeks at this point. So I don't have any update for you on where we stand on that one. I will say the bridge that crosses over to Hempfield, if we're going to utilize this for Greenway or the park in the future, this bridge is going to have to be reconstructed or a new bridge put in, because that bridge is a one-lane bridge and it's just not going to be able to handle any kind of traffic. So that is something else we're going to have to address. Now, I think the good news about this is we've been in discussions with our MPO, French Broad River MPO, and a little bit with NCDOT about the potential for splitting the whole project into 2 projects. Now, what this would do for us would be potentially, well, not potentially, but it would give us the opportunity to start on the other end of this greenway towards Veterans Park and not do this portion right now. However, that process with the MPO, if the board decides tonight they want to split these up, that process would go on the May's meeting agenda for the French Broad River MPO, and it typically takes 60 to 90 days for DOT to do the STIP amendment. So we're going to be looking at probably 3 months or so before we could do anything on that second part. Now, with that being said, if we go ahead and split that project now without knowing what our route's going to be, and I'm going to call this segment A, just for separating them. For this segment, we're going to have to come back at some point and have a discussion about what this alignment is going to be, because we don't know right now what we're going to do. That will, of course, have to go back to DOT, kind of like what we would do now, and go through that process again with a change.
Let me just ask you to clarify one thing. If we bifurcate or separate this one project into 2, we're not going to stop paying attention to the first project. It just enables us to start construction where we can start and start moving.
So, and I know I've said this till I'm blue in the face, but I guess I like to keep saying it. You know, with this money, the way it's set up, you have to do it in phases. You have to do all of the engineering first, then all the right of way, then all the construction. You can't skip back and forth. DOT will not let you go forward with right of way until they have approved all your design documents. So that's where we are with that. Now, I want to read a couple of things that we got some good information from the MPO, as I just mentioned, about the 60 days. If the board votes tonight to do this, then it would be on their May meeting. So that would hurry up the process with DOT, usually 60 to 90 days for them to make that change. Now, in the meantime, I don't know how long it's going to take for the railroad to get us any information back. I don't know what to tell you on that. We'll keep trying. We'll keep trying to get those questions answered from the railroad. Now, I need to say this too. With changing our scope, the portion segment B, which goes to the west from Black Mountain Avenue over to Veterans Park, all that design is for the most part done. We've gone through all the utility plans. We've gone through all the environmental documentation, the State Historic Preservation Office requirements. All that's been done. Now, when we choose an option, unless we use the existing sidewalks, we're gonna have to go through all that process again. I know that I've mentioned that, but I wanna make sure that I'm not misleading you and that you're aware that once we do something new, all that's gonna start over on that segment.
For the project.
That's right,
Yeah,
for what you're looking at right now.
sorry.
And, that, I can't really give you a good time frame on that. That's probably gonna take at least a year, if not longer. The last time we went through this, it took DOT 8 months to get some stuff back to us so we could proceed. So just so you know that it's not a quick process at all for the Greenway, using this type of funding.
So
But-
I'm sorry.
No, but I think for tonight, if the board feels comfortable, I think, this is gonna potentially create some more staff, some more staff work. But the MPO has been, they're good to work with and they've been gracious enough to tell us that they may be able to help us out if we need some administrative help on splitting the projects. Cause once you split them, you just got double the submittals of everything, since it's not one project anymore, now it's two. But I don't want that to take us from doing that, so.
Right, right. It's certainly my recommendation that we do because it's really a very straightforward process at the MPO. It just needs to run through the committees and then to the board, which is why it can't be, there's actually a meeting coming up toward the end of the month for April, but it hasn't gone through the committees. There's also a 21-day public notice period that has to run before the board can vote on it. But Tristan was very encouraging about it, and they're very interested in greenways and walkability, and they really try to cooperate and help. And they're saddened by the fact that we ran into a roadblock and just couldn't go the way that we had wanted to go for a number of years. So that's just where we are. But I would entertain a motion then, if there are no other questions for Josh, let me first say, does anybody have any questions for Josh?
Let me mention this too, real fast. With this portion that you're looking at on the screen, none of this has been designed. So, any of that work will more than likely need to come from our pockets. The original funding for this project, a lot of that design has been spent on what's already been designed. So the construction dollars, I'm not as worried about because, if we end up, by not going that route, you're not going under the railroad, you're not going under 70 potentially. So I think there could be some offsetting costs there potentially, but the engineering money would be something we would have to talk about.
If we're able to arrive at a route, if we're able to know where we want to go and we can do it, we can always go looking for, that money. What would
Okay.
your estimate be? It's kind of hard to say because it depends on what the route is, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, you can't really do much with that. Any comments, questions for Josh? And if not, I'd entertain a motion.
So just tonight, what all you're asking us to do is decide whether to, I love the word, bifurcate. That's the only thing we're deciding right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're not asking you to decide on a route. I mean, we don't have, it may be a month from now, I come back and say, hey, the railroad's all good, they don't mind, we can move
Well,
forward.
that'd be a wonderful thing.
Or they may say, no, I'm sorry, it's not gonna work out. But at this point, we just don't have that information.
Gotcha.
Or maybe they told you could ask questions, and maybe they'll start answering questions. Maybe they'll share that news with you sometime.
And one other question, does the Greenways Commission have any thoughts or input about the notion of bifurcating, or is that just beyond their realm of?
I don't know I don't think they've been asked that question. I don't know that it's that big of an issue,
Yeah,
to be honest.
it's more of an internal,
I think so.
gotcha.
Yeah, and what's almost just working with government. We're not gonna be able to do anything if we don't, break them apart and have two projects, So I would entertain a motion that we take our current Greenway plan, that we separate it into two plans. One would be the completion of the Showers Riverwalk Greenway from Black Mountain Avenue over to joining the Greenway at the Montreat Ball Fields. The other project is the one that Josh is talking about tonight, that I don't know that does it have a standalone name?
No, we'll have to come up with
Have
something,
to come,
I guess.
that sounds like you have time to, so. And so that, just to be clear, that's what we're doing, but voting on splitting them into two different projects tonight. So I would entertain that motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate that. If there's no other comments or questions, Ryan, could you please start the roll call?
Ryan Stone, aye. Archie Patillo, aye. Tim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Thank you, and we'll get a note off to Tristan tomorrow, let him know that the
Sure
board
will.
board has agreed to do that. So now we're on new business, and we are at the Black Mountain Library Garden proposal.
So I think this may be a group effort. I'm gonna bring back Mr. Josh Henderson to give you a little bit of update on got Greenway on my mind, on the Black Mountain Library Garden proposal. I think Ron may have a few words to say. Maybe.
All right, so this is a proposal from a few people in the community, Lisa Stewart, Chris Kramer, and then the combination of two of my part-time staff members, Emily Sampson and Diana McCall, to propose essentially an extension of the community garden at the Black Mountain Library and some green space and a median there, being a combination of a pollinator garden, some raised boxes that we currently have at the Black Mountain Montessori School, Carver Center, and then installing a actual garden bed as well. As you see, you have the plans before you, but that is essentially what this proposal is.
Great, thank you, Josh. Do we have anybody that wants to?
She is here, and she's probably happy to speak, but you know she's been involved in this plan.
Just here to observe? Okay, great. Any questions for Josh? Ron, do you have any comments?
If I had a hat on, I would change it. On behalf of the library board, we have of the plans, finally seeing diagrams. The library board hasn't seen this final setup, at least not formally yet. And something they were interested in was preserving some outdoor space for reading activities. And the way this is drawn, it appears that's done. The one question or issue we had was water is to be taken from the spigot of the library to the garden bed. They say 120 gallons in a set period of time. I think that depends entirely on the weather. But it's not the amount that bothers us, it's how we transport the water from the spigot to the beds. We don't want garden hoses across in front of the education room and the back door of the library. But I think that can be worked out. So I think, and I can't speak to the library board myself, but I anticipate that this plan is probably going to be acceptable if something can be worked out with the library so that we know that we're not creating a safety issue getting water.
Right. Questions for Josh or Ron?
The beds at the Carver Center are currently unused. They're the ones that are.
Right, I believe
They're not used.
they're not used. At one point in time, the Montessori School was using them, but at this point in time, I do not think they are.
They are not using them.
Any other questions? So that's the motion in front of you is to approve or deny the Black Mountain Library Garden proposal as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Doug. Ryan?
Ryan Stone, aye. Archie Patillo, aye. Tim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your work. Ron, let the library board know, we appreciate it.
They'll be tomorrow night, so we should be able to look at the plan then.
Very good. Thank you. Golf course rates.
So I've got Brent Miller, Golf Operations Manager, with us tonight, and I'm gonna let him present to you the golf course rates that you have in your packet.
Hello, Brent, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me up tonight. Just want to quickly go over the 2021 golf rates that I'm proposing to take effect May 1st. I hope everybody's got those there in front of them. Sorry, Archie. I'm looking for the family membership to go to $1,750.
Let him present to you.
That's up $150 from 2020. The individual to go to $1,200. That's up $100 from 2020. The proposed cart rate would go up $1 on 18 holes, stay the same on 9, just because it aligns a little bit better that way. We've had this rule that you see below that in place for a couple years now about the walking anytime, like when we allow it. I'm asking that maybe while we're dealing with COVID, I would like to waive this rule until we have a little bit better cart availability. Some of our carts are getting old, which we're going to talk about coming up here in a few minutes. We have a really high demand on tea times right now. Also, there's people I think that feel more comfortable right now walking because of COVID. So if we were able to waive that rule for now, I feel like that might be the appropriate thing to do. As far as proposed greens fees go, weekday I'm looking to go up $2 on the riding 18 round and $2 on the riding 18 round on the weekend. Looking to go up $5 actually on the weekend to walk 18 just because it's a really high demand time right now. And looking to go up $5 on the walk-in 9 rate. If you guys want to look on the pages following, I think you can see what some of our competitors are doing. We're still at a really competitive rate compared to everybody around us. You know, we've always kind of prided ourselves on being a value golf course. It's a pretty place to play. We keep it in good shape, but we don't charge too much for it. So I think you'll see that with what everybody else is doing around us there. One more quick one is the senior rate. I'd like to keep it the same. I've looked around at what some of the other courses are doing on their senior rate, and I feel like we're pretty competitive right now at $35. The twilight rate, we do that every day at 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the wintertime. I'm just going to go up a couple bucks, basically to try to help cover this cart fee that we're looking at proposing on the next section. That's what I've got on rate proposals right now.
Thank you, Brent. Questions for Brent? All right, the motion to approve the 2021 rate proposal to take effect 5/1/21.
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. Ryan?
Ryan Stone, aye. Archie Patillo, aye. Tim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Thank you. Okay, Brent, golf carts.
Linda,
All right.
can I just interject for 1
Yes,
second,
certainly.
Mr. Mayor? You had asked, just to kind of give a quick update on where we are on the golf course. I thought maybe this is an appropriate time, and I'll be brief.
So where we are, just the operation.
As far as yes, as far as, I'm gonna give you revenues is what I'm gonna give you right now. So last year, at the end of the fiscal year, which of course would be June 30, we ended up with $221,622 for green fees. That was last year. This year, of course, this is through March 31st. We are currently at $216,635. So, you know, we're gonna be better than we were last year this year. That's inevitable. It's gonna happen. We're only, you know, $5,000 away. So that's good news. Memberships, you know, we're down a little bit right now, but once this takes effect with our new rates, that's typically when we get our memberships in. So I don't think there's a cause. That right now is at $20,000. Last year it was $46,000, but I think we'll exceed the $46,000. And golf carts are trending. The fees for the golf carts are trending about the same right now as they were last year. Last year we were at $176,241 at close of the fiscal year, and right now we're at $127,544. So about $50,000 difference in those two. But we still got 3 good months left to play this year. So.
That's right.
And then our 19th hole revenue, I will say that did increase a little bit. With our new tenant in there, we're going to end up getting $800 more a year. So we'll end up finishing out $800 better than the previous fiscal year.
There's no legal fees.
What's
I
that?
said, there's no legal fees. All right. Thank you, Josh.
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead, Brent. with
Okay,
golf carts.
so on the golf carts, we've got a couple different things to look at. Really, it's gas or electric and lease or purchase. I can tell you that if we were going to go with electric, we would definitely want to lease and not own them at the end of the term, mainly because it's very expensive to replace the battery systems in these carts. Their value drops at the end of that 5-year mark. That's kind of why we're recommending to purchase gas carts. If I don't know, do they have this sheet?
They do have that sheet.
Okay, so club cars, you can see is coming in pretty good. 72 carts, $158,400. Yamaha's at $214,560. This is after a trade of our 72 current carts in fleet. The reason these numbers are so different is because Club Cars come to us with a much more competitive purchase price for our current fleet. Much more competitive. You can see it even in the lease prices. And it's nice because when we bought this fleet that we've got almost 10 years ago, we paid $280 for that fleet. We got $100,000 in trade at that time for those carts, so we paid a net of $180. And Club Cars offering us $183,600 right now for the carts that we've currently got, which is obviously $3,600 more than what we net paid for them the first time around. So it's a really great deal. It's almost hard to look at the other ones, but I will say there's some nice things about the electric carts. Obviously, we want to be as green as we can at the golf course. I think that's really important right now. And if the price would allow for it, I would be really pushing for that because it's got some great features. There's a lot of control that we can have over the golf cart, speed, places that they go. But right now for us in the situation that we're in financially, I think having something at the end of this 5 years, because that's the thing, if we lease it, we have nothing at the end of the 5 years. If we purchase these carts, we'll be able to roll them into, it might be 7 years instead of 5 if we own them, but we'll be able to roll that value into the next, into the next purchase of carts or possibly a lease at that time. One other thing that I'd point out is on these lease prices that you see here, they do look low for at $38,750 for 5 years. Yep, that's very low. The reason that's low is because that's including this $183,000 and $183,600 in trade. In 5 years, we wouldn't have that trade because we would just be turning the carts back in. So that number would look more like $215,000. Much higher, obviously. If you're at a place that is trying to keep new carts all the time and you don't mind that expense, it can work out for us. I think that in my recommendation, the purchase is our best option. And I can answer any questions, as far as how the gas compares to the electric and the different options on all that. If anybody has any, what you got for me, and I'll try
Questions?
to clarify things.
Questions?
How does the cost of gas factor in, like on
Sure.
an annual basis, or how much are we spending on gas that we could save if that?
So roughly this past year, 2020, we used 4,032 gallons of gas in our fleet. If you were to break that down, if that average was about $2 a gallon, and that was for 5 years, I'm saying 5 years because the 5-year lease, that's $560 per cart over 5 years, $560 per cart in gas. So it's fairly minimal. They get about 40 miles to the gallon. They don't use a whole lot of gas. Gas would have to get up, I'm guessing, $4.50 to $5 a gallon before I think we would see a drastic difference. That would be drastic enough to switch to electric, pay that cost of converting the cart barn to electric, because we would have to do that. There would be an expense there, roughly $10,000. So at 35, 40 miles a gallon on the carts in gas, I still think it's a win for the golf course, and they're really low emission. It's a very small motor, and there's not exhaust coming out of them. I mean, they're pretty quiet now too. I mean, that was the other thing. Electric's quiet, much quieter, but the gas has gotten a lot quieter.
So if we were to go with the electric, what's your capacity for charging golf carts, 72 carts? I mean, you must have a gas pump out there, right?
We do have a gas pump, that's that $10,000 conversion I'm talking about. So basically, we would have to have an electrician come in and wire the cart barn up for these units, because they each have their own charging station. You plug them in the ceiling, they hang down in a cord, and you plug them up each night. so that's the other price that you kind of have to factor in. You know, it's not like that electricity's free. It is, you know, another cost that you have to associate against that gas price that, you know, and the amount of gas that you're burning. So I don't know what that number would actually look like other than the cost of the conversion to be about $10,000 to get ready to even get those carts to come in, the electric carts to come in.
I think, some of the, I think Brent's mentioned the reasons that we were kind of looking more towards gas, and he said that batteries are expensive to replace. Those are about $1,000 a piece. So that's $72,000 on those 72 carts. You're gonna have to replace in 5 years.
If you went electric, you just have to do the lease, in my opinion, you know, like, for that reason right there. But,
Yeah, I will say that both Yamaha and Club Car do offer warranty on their battery carts. There are two differences that you would need to know. Club Car is actually a lithium battery. So being a lithium battery, it's actually DC instead of AC, and it has more torque. The battery is supposedly going to last longer. It hasn't been out long enough really for them to know yet, but it also charges in half the time. So if you plug it up at night, the Yamaha is going to charge in about 8 hours. The Club Car is going to charge in about 4 hours. The Club Car is more expensive, and it's more expensive to replace. The 1,000 that Josh is talking about is for the 48-volt AC battery system. We don't know exactly what the lithium battery system is going to cost to replace yet, only because these carts are so new, nobody's made it to the 5 years yet. But they're guessing it's going to be somewhere around $1,600 per cart to replace that battery system. So you can imagine if you own these carts at the 5-year and 1 day point, that value is really plummeted because a potential buyer is going to know that they're going to have to replace that system. You know, it's kind of inevitable with anything that is battery operated. The battery's the first thing to go. You know, the tool is usually still good.
Right.
But,
Any other questions for Brent?
Yeah, I appreciate you answering some of these questions here. One of the questions I had that, since the public doesn't have this paper here, is we're looking at 72 carts. How often are we actually maxing out at 72 carts a day or coming anywhere close to that?
Yeah, so there's lots of days, and let me say this. We're supposed to have 72 carts. Right now, I've got probably 62 that I'll send out on the course. And 4 of those are a little bit, I wouldn't really want to, but I'll do it when I have to. Lots of times on really busy days, I'll be waiting on carts to come in on Saturday at like 12 o'clock so I can get them washed and put them back out. How many days do we use them all? I would say we're at about 85% to 90% of our carts most days. Even what used to be slow days through the week, Monday being probably our slowest, we use a lot. I don't use them all on Mondays. But days that used to be traditionally very slow days for us, Tuesdays and Thursdays, some of the guys who play out there can tell you it is really, really busy. We're booking out almost every tee time that we have, and it's because of this impact that COVID's had on golf. I mean, it's COVID's awful, and it's had obviously a terrible impact around the world. But for golf, for whatever reason, it's had a positive impact. It's revitalized the game all over the country. So we're definitely seeing it here in Black Mountain. And I think that would reflect, if you ever want to come by, just come by on a day around 12 o'clock and you can kind of see where we're sitting with our carts.
So,
But I will say this, in all fairness, if we had all 72 up, at any time I might have 10 that are in there. The point is, though, you want to try to rotate those carts each day. If you can help and not have every cart going out twice a day, all day, it'll save your carts a little bit.
sure.
It's hard on them.
But it sounds like it doesn't make sense to do half the fleet this year and then another half next year or something like that.
Well, if we were having this discussion 5 or 6 years ago, I would say 100% that might be a good option. There's not 36 carts in the fleet that I would feel comfortable trying to maintain for another 2 or 3 years. would be one reason. Number two, so the offer that we have right now on this purchase, wouldn't be available for half the fleet, and it wouldn't be available 2 years from now when we tried to get rid of these. This is kind of it's a pretty good deal that we're getting right now. The other thing is the price of the golf carts will go down and the value of our trade, the price of the carts would go up, the value of the trade would go down. So I think in this scenario, we're better off going ahead and doing them all at once. And then, 4 years from now, that might be something that we'd want to look at, is take the worst 36, go ahead and send them off, keep the best 36, and buy half at a time.
All right. Any other questions for Brent?
So what kind of financing things are we looking at on this?
So I don't have, I wasn't sure if the board was gonna do purchase or lease, so I don't have any finance stuff in front of you. But what I would say is, at this point in time, it would probably be better if I searched around and looked at some banks because the interest rates, as you know, are very, very cheap. And see what kind of interest rate I can get and maybe bring something back to you in the May meeting. I think for this meeting, what we need from the board is an approval to go with Yamaha or Club Car so we can get those guys and girls started. Is that right?
I think so, because what's happening is production keeps getting pushed out further. And it's just like everything else in our lives right now. Because of COVID, these factories that are making the carts are delayed. Parts that are trying to get over here are being delayed in these shipping canals. There's all kinds of things happening. So the sooner that we can give somebody a heads up that we're going to go ahead and do this, the better off we'll be.
So the recommendation from staff is purchase from
Mine would be purchased from Club Car.
Club Car. That's what I thought I heard you say.
Gas.
Gas.
Purchase gas from Club Car. So that's staff recommendation in front of you, board.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make that motion.
Thank you, Ryan. Go ahead and start the roll call.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye. Tim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
I came prepared to vote for electric leasing, and I'm voting yes on this motion.
Thank you, Pam. Appreciate it. And thank you, Brant. Appreciate you being here this evening. Thanks for all your hard work and
Appreciate you.
at the golf course over the past months, keeping everything
We're
going.
trying. It's been
It's been busy. Yeah, been busy.
I'll tell you, I went up there last Tuesday to drop in on Brent, and I've never seen, there were cars in the grass, there
Oh,
were
yeah.
cars everywhere.
That's right.
What we want to say.
That's right.
Thank you.
So we got Josh back again on the town square use policy. It's your night.
You get your fill for me.
Yeah, that's right. It's gonna come. You're just gonna participate a lot, aren't you?
That's it. All right, so what this is, some years ago, I want to say 2016, the current board at the time put together a town square use policy when Town Square Park was developed. And this is what you have in front of you is a proposal from the Chamber of Commerce. They are seeking to make some amendments to the structures portion of this policy to accommodate some added features for the Sourwood Festival. I believe you guys have the highlighted portion in your packet. Is that correct? Those highlighted things there, A through G, are what the chamber is proposing to be added into this policy to allow them to put up some pop-up tents and such there in the park during the Sourwood Festival for music and some demonstrators, crafters, those type of things to increase foot traffic from the Sourwood Festival up Cherry Street to encourage them to utilize local businesses and things on their way up to Town Square Park.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. So it's really, and it's to accommodate the tents.
Mm-hmm.
Tents, and it's one event a month,
That's what she is proposing, yes.
one
the
event a
chamber.
month to accommodate tents, and the tents have to come down at the end of the day,
Right.
which I think is a biggie.
So I'm very excited about their vision for Sourwood and very supportive of this change. One thing that I found a little confusing was item G, with only one event per month will be held in Town Square. I would like to propose that we change that to only one event with structures per month will be held in Town Square, just to clarify that if there is another event the following weekend that doesn't require structures, something like that, that would be okay.
Sounds good. Is that agreeable to everybody? To just consider that one amendment to the policy as presented, one change to the policy as presented.
These aren't exclusive to the chamber, right? It could be in different
Correct,
organizations.
yeah.
Yeah.
And typically, just so you guys are aware, the way the use of Town Square Park works, when somebody wants to hold an event there, is they go through the special event permit
Right.
process that we have in place. So that anybody that wanted to have an event there, following these guidelines, would have to go through that process.
Great, thank you. So, motion before you is to approve the Town Square use policy amendments as presented, with the one clarification offered by Councilperson Hayes.
So moved.
Thank you. Did you,
Got it wrong.
you good?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead and start the roll.
All right, Brian Stone, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye. Tim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Ann King, aye.
Thank you. So you're gonna also help us with the Babe Ruth MOU?
Correct.
All right,
So for quite some time, the recreation department in the town has partnered with Charles D. Owen Babe Ruth to provide baseball and softball for the Swananoa Valley. This has functioned under MOU, which was last updated in 2016 under a different director and town manager at the time. And so I got with some of their board members and their representative who is here tonight. And we put together a new MOU just to kind of highlight some of the changes that were made over the last 6 years. And what you have in front of you is the MOU that we put together with the amendments that they are proposing to the MOU.
So the things that you see in red, Mayor and council, are the amendments from the Babe Ruth.
Yes.
Ours are already in here.
and I gathered that the only concern from the town was maybe it was the time frame.
I think
Josh, what was it?
the time frame, the time frames that we had in here, as far as, if you see on the front, we've got 60, they wanted 30, we've got 30, they wanted 15. And then I think on the back in financing, I think, as far as additional supplies or maintenance, we had put in here that it would be charged to the Charles D. Owen Babe Ruth League instead of it coming from the town. Currently, or at least for financing, we had budgeted $10,000, I think, in the past for Babe Ruth.
Was that gonna change drastically with this MOU?
As far as, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah. All right, so any questions for Josh? Josh H. or Josh H? That doesn't work either.
Mayor, can I just make a comment about youth sports?
Yes, sir, please do.
We've seen a tremendous decline in participants. As some of you may know, our middle school program, we haven't had a football team in the last 2 years. This spring, there's no baseball or wrestling teams at the middle school. And I think that anything that we can do to support youth sports here in the Swananoa Valley, because in a couple of years, we may not have sports at the high school level.
Yeah.
And from what I've gathered from other schools in Buncombe County, that they're not having these kinds of issues. Not to the extent that we are. So, I just think that we need to do everything we can to help support youth sports and other activities here in the Swananoa Valley.
Right, I couldn't agree more.
I will say, Jess Gardner is here, who's on the Babe Ruth board, if you would like to hear from him, or just to,
I think we're pretty good just because we have some other business to do, unless the board wants to hear any more about it. I think it seems like it's pretty straightforward to me, but it's up to the board. And if the board has any more questions, that's fine, and if not, we'll entertain a motion to approve this MOU.
I'll make a motion that we approve the MOU as presented.
Great, thank you, Archie, appreciate that. Mr. Stone.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Josh. Jess, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. Appreciate you. You're the chair of the Babe Ruth board right now? All right, way to go. You can hold that job for about 6 or 8 years, I think. There's no. All right, so we have our first public hearing. It's the consideration of the charter update. And so I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Great, thank you. Josh, are you going to just present, just give us a little platform
Sure,
for
so the
the
charter,
public?
so this is something that the council has spoke about, I guess, for a little while now, past few months anyway, and there were some changes made. The council had made some comments on, I think it's really more so along the lines of, the appointments, I think, were part of it, and of course, we changed our name from Board of Aldermen to Town Council. And the plan was to get this through the General Assembly in this long session, and unfortunately, we were unable to beat that deadline. So this will not go before them until, I think, May of 2022, if I'm not mistaken, for short session.
We were in the queue early enough, but I think the bill writing folks in Raleigh had their plates full and saw us as less significant, that we probably wouldn't fail for lack of a charter for a year, and pushed us out. But we'll give you a little more time. We had a charter that was basically approved by consensus, but it was more of a placeholder. In the interim, today I handed out a change. You'll look yourself to death trying to find the change because they're very minimal. One change was just to correct that our meetings are actually the second Monday in December, or second Monday of the month, so the first. There was one provision that set out all our staggered terms in reference to session law. We pulled that out because we know people don't want to read the charter and then have to go find an old session law. And just probably one other question. Some of you may have noted that the oath that's in the charter now ends, but it says I swear or affirm, and then ends with so help me God. And I asked Ann about that. So that's contrary, but that is right out of the state constitution, so it's there. Although when you swear somebody in and they're affirming, you can drop that line. And again, for those people who think that affirming and not swearing is because you're not religious, it might be because you're extremely religious and you don't feel that you should be swearing in any form. So don't ever take that affirmation as being you're talking to a person who's not religious. And that actually began to occur when certain denominations felt that you should not swear, period. And so that's where that came from. But so that so help me God can come or go, but it's going to be in your charter until the state constitution is changed.
Right. So what we could do, if we were thoughtful enough, could remember it, is just ask ever who we might be swearing in.
You want to be sworn or affirmed?
Swearing in if they'd rather be affirmed in.
Yeah, affirmed, yeah, right. But those are the only changes from what's been in front of you for a while and what's in Raleigh. But again, John Ager took that knowing it was a placeholder, so we have lots of time. Even if you approve this to go forward tonight, and between now and this time next year, something comes up, we need to go back and modify, we have lots of time.
Yeah, that's right. That's probably the main thing right there. Any informational questions for town attorney or town manager? Is there any public comment? No public comment. Then I'd entertain a motion that we close the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Great, thank you. So board, the motion is in front of you to approve the charter amendments as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve
Thank
the
you.
charter amendment as presented.
Thank you. Go right ahead with the vote.
Ryan
Mr.
Stone, aye.
Archie Patillo, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Now it's the public hearing to close a portion of unopened platted portion of right-of-way parallel to Fairway Drive and Tomahawk Avenue. And I would make a motion to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. Go right ahead. with the
Brian
vote.
Stone, aye.
Lawrence Petrillo, aye.
Jim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Great, thank you, Jessica. Nice to have you here this evening and
Thank you.
lead us the way.
Absolutely. So if you, in your agenda packet, you have a map you can reference. We're looking at a small sort of abandoned strip of leftover right-of-way from years and years ago. Jerry Jackson has filed this petition to close that portion of an unopened right-of-way between Fairway Drive and Tomahawk Avenue. The properties that abut the right-of-way are a variety of unaddressed properties on Hiawassee and Tomahawk Avenue and 603 Tomahawk Avenue. The right-of-way is not identified in any proposed plans, projects, or anything of that nature. It's approximately 75 feet in length and about 8 feet wide. And this was approved unanimously at the January 25th Planning Board meeting. We have not received any calls or issues in our department.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't have any public comment, Mr. Mayor. Is there anyone?
I have nothing.
Very good. With that, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Brian Stone, aye.
Lawrence Petrillo, aye.
Jim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Thank you very much. Board, any information you want to, any questions for Jessica? Or if not, then, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution R-21-02 for the right-of-way closure.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Go right ahead.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Lawrence Petrillo, aye.
Jim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Great, thank you. On to C, and that can still be Jessica helping us with that, and it is a motion to public hearing to close unopened platted right-of-way parallel in between Hiawassee Avenue and South Occoneechee Avenue. So I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you, Archie. Mr. Stone.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Lawrence Petrillo, aye.
Jim Raines, aye.
Doug Hay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Thank you. Go right ahead, Jessica.
You'll see you have another map. This is a longer section that was requested to be closed, the shaded area. Becky Janes, Brandon Abigail Moffett, Toby and Sarah, Broughton Ives, Darla Sublett, Eric and Erica Christopher, Philip Abernathy, Caitlin Hiddich, and Casey Sharp, and Dawn and Dorinda Blankenship have filed a petition to close this portion of unopened right-of-way between Hiawassee Avenue and South Occoneechee Avenue. The properties that abut this right-of-way are 402 Hiawassee, 400 Hiawassee, 312 Hiawassee, 312B Hiawassee, and then we have an unaddressed Hiawassee Avenue, 304 Hiawassee, 300 Hiawassee, 216 Hiawassee, 206 Hiawassee, 104 Hiawassee, 207 South Occoneechee, and also in South Occoneechee we have addresses at 209, 301, 305, and 312, and 401, 403 as well. So that covers all of our bases. It is approximately 759 feet in length and varies between 8 and 10 feet wide. It's not identified in any right-of-way plans or anything of that nature. And this was also recommended by the planning board at their January 25th meeting with unanimous vote. We have also not received any calls or anything with this application.
Let me ask, so the information that came in this afternoon is not
That's
for
for
that
the
road?
next one.
That's
It
a
looks
different
a
road.
lot like this though.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
This will win next month.
yes.
No public
I do have
comment.
two public comments.
Two public comments.
Becky James is the first one. I'm writing to support the closure of the utility right-of-way that runs between houses on Hiawassee Avenue and South Occoneechee. Closing this right-of-way will allow me and my neighbors to take better care of our properties and ease the way for planning any improvements such as fences or shrub and tree planting. Thank you for all the work you do, Becky James, 312 Hiawassee Avenue. Secondly, Sally Broughton We live at 313 South Occoneechee Avenue, Black Mountain, and support the closure of the alley utility right of way. When we bought this house in 2017, it raised some concern for us to have this nebulous alley on the plat map, and perhaps even more so because there was no evidence of any current utility access there. We are not interested in selling, but if it remains officially open, there would always be some question for potential buyers in the future. Also, it's land that we could, in confidence, put to use as part of our yard and willingly maintain, since no other entity is going to maintain it. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Entertain a motion that we close the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you, Archie. Go right ahead, Ryan.
Ryan Stone, aye. Archie Patillo, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Okay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Right. So, any questions for Jessica?
I have one. Why does it stop where it does instead of at the end of the lot? Did some of the neighbors not join this one?
The applicants had some interest, and that's just where it's not, those neighbors did not join in.
Okay.
They didn't object, they didn't join in.
That's,
I think I used to play on that right away growing up, I'm pretty sure. Don't know how I feel about it being closed, it's probably a good idea. Not trying to persuade anybody. No, does anybody have any questions? And if not, I would entertain a motion, Resolution R-21-05, to close the unopened platted right-of-way parallel in between Hiawassee Avenue and South Occoneechee Avenue.
So moved.
Thank you, Archie. Go right ahead, Ryan.
Ryan Stone, aye. Archie Patillo, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Okay, aye.
Pam King, aye.
Thank you, Jessica, we appreciate your work there. Mr. Sneed, do you have anything for us this evening?
No, I don't. I would like to have had a legislative update for you, which I will have next month. There are some bills, as always, floating through the legislature that will have an effect on the town. One is raising the dollar value of an item. It's something you might do in your property before a building permit is required. Another is, and this will be the kicker if it goes through, is there's been a bill introduced that would require all local governments to allow quadruplexes on any developable lot. And that would make a big deal for us because that means in UR8, you could have 32 units per acre if that goes through, and it's just sort of mandated by the state. So if that should fly, that's going to be a planning headache for local governments. I don't
Interesting.
know the status of it. The league is tracking those. I haven't seen a report from them on how good or how bad those are going to be. Also, I'm a member of the North Carolina, well, it used to be trial lawyers. They're tracking those, even though the trial land litigation isn't a big deal for trial lawyers. They foresee those as very impactful changes in the law. So next month, I hope to have an update on where those
Good,
are. What's
that's
happening.
great, thank you. Josh?
Only thing I have, we had if you recall, last Thursday, we talked to you very briefly about this earmarked money. And here's what I'm gonna tell you about it. We got notification from Congressman Cawthorn's office today, just after 4:00, saying that the applications are due tomorrow. So we have plenty of time to get things done. And, no, just kidding. So what I'm thinking, if y'all can think overnight and maybe get me something by no later than 10 tomorrow, if you have any ideas. I've got a couple ideas, one being, and I'm looking more at the transportation related funding.
Right.
I think a lot of the other stuff probably isn't gonna be applicable to us. But specifically, we're gonna be replacing 9th Street Bridge. We're gonna be responsible for 20% of that cost, which is probably gonna be about $120,000 in the next couple years. And then, the emergency signal that is actually in this budget coming up for the fire and police department on Montreat Road, which is about $30,000. So anything that we are gonna be submitting, we've gotta have some money tied to it. So it can't just be something that we don't know how much it's gonna cost. We gotta be able to put some cost to it. And I apologize for the late notice, but this is what we've been given to deal with.
See
This
if
is what we've
they'll,
been given to deal with.
see if they'll pay for golf carts.
We can ask.
Transportation.
That is transportation related.
Thank you, Josh. So, yeah, if something comes up, we had those two projects on, and frankly, if we could get that, that'd be great. You know, I still don't know where this I never really have found any news about it before.
And if you look, there's still just not any guidance on it. It's just not, which is a little concerning for me, but
That's a little odd. But the nice thing there is, and that was it's a concerning thing, because when this other money that's coming from the bill that was passed, I mean, it's out there, it's coming in these two waves. On the calls at Land of Sky, I think you were on them, the folks who spoke at both at federal government level made note that it happens, the government asks for the money back sometimes. And it doesn't, and it's not always fair, but you have to be careful. The point here is we're gonna have to spend this money anyway.
Right.
So if we get it, there's not that much risk into asking for something and then spending it when we know we have to spend it anyway.
so we'll have someone tomorrow, that's what their job will be all day, is to work on this,
Is that Savannah?
probably. I won't say any names.
Great, thank you, Josh. Anything else?
That's it.
Great. The only thing I would add, which Savannah's been in touch with everyone, is that we just have these topics coming up. One, coming from you or Anna to help us wade through 160D, maybe a workshop coming up when you're ready to do that. So what we thought we'd do, Ron, is start, we'll have the May meeting. It's already scheduled. Then we'll go ahead and Savannah will schedule special call meetings for the following Wednesday or Thursday? Thursday, following Thursday morning at 8:30. We'll probably make that one what did we say we're probably gonna do with that one? Water? I can't remember. Stormwater, the utilities.
Stormwater utility.
Kind of budget oriented, but it's the stormwater issue, and we'll probably be creating utility for that. So that's the first Thursday after the May regular board meeting. Then one week later on Thursday, we'll hold another one. It'll either be Ron or Anna helping us
would be in.
wading through 160D. And then we need to have a budget workshop sometime coming up in there soon. But then we actually had another issue.
Comprehensive plan.
The comprehensive plan, that's it. Because that was going to be it was ready to be on the agenda, and I asked it to be taken off because it's something we need to hold a meeting and focus on it. It's an important thing, and we need to take as much time with that as we need. So we'll start off with just a workshop, if that sounds good to everybody. And then we'll continue on until we get caught up with some of these special projects, if that sounds agreeable to everybody. But we'll go ahead and schedule those 3 meetings and give public notice. I guess we can't give public notice until we're firm up on the topic for the other 2, but keep that in mind. But the first one, we can go ahead and give public notice when need be. And that's all I have. Any messages from the board? Comments? If not, thank you. Good meeting. Appreciate everybody's work. Meeting adjourned.